All right, Kevin, back with you for another episode of the Million Dollar Relationships Podcast. And today I am here with Zac Mason. Zac, welcome. So great to have you here today, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's
Yeah.
grateful to be on your show.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I want to give a shout out to Lloyd Thompson. Uh, Lloyd was the one that connected you and I, and Zac. You and I had our first conversation. We met on Zoom last week, and what's really cool is when we get connected by a mutual friend like Lloyd. Even though you and I met last week for the very first time, it was like we'd known each other for years, man. And so
Yeah,
and you were talking about you and Lloyd are both avid surfers, and you get to spend some time together doing that. In fact, when I found out Lloyd was such an avid surfer, I have a friend of mine that lives here in the States in St. Augustine, Florida, that he goes surfing every day and has been for years. And
wow.
and I know he travels the world to go surfing as well. And so I ended up connected him and Lloyd because I'm like, I was like, you guys are both great entrepreneurs doing cool stuff, but the fact that you guys are both avid surfers too, I just envision you guys getting together somewhere in the world at some point and going
Yeah,
surfing, which is cool. And so
yeah, it's
so
awesome.
yes, kudos to Lloyd. Thank you, Lloyd, for connecting Zac and I, and because I've really been looking forward to this conversation today, Zac. And what I'd like to do
Likewise.
is I'll start off by just turning it over to you so we can set a little bit of context. Let everybody know, a little bit about who you are, what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work you do, and the impact you're making in this world. And we'll just start there.
Awesome. Yeah, so to keep it pretty straight, my best work happens in the health and fitness industry. So working with CEOs and business owners, helping them to not just get their lean body back, but do it in a way that they can maintain for life, to feel healthier, stronger, fitter, and be able to do the things they want to do outside of their business as well. Because it's all well and good to you know work really hard and have a performance type of business if that's what someone wants to have, but if it's taking away from actually having a lifestyle, then that's where the health falls down. So I guess you could call me a specialist in that area, and it's been something I've been doing since 2016 after finishing bodybuilding competitions, which was a whole other life journey, which I ended just because it wasn't sustainable. And the beauty is it taught me everything I needed to know about nutrition, training, recovery, and maintaining a healthy physique, and also a healthy relationship with food, with training, and a sustainable lifestyle long term. So that's the short version.
Very good. And with technologies that you are able to work with and serve clients, not just locally, but around the world too, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So it's good you mentioned that because originally that's what I wanted to do. Coming out of bodybuilding, I wanted to be an online influencer because that's when Instagram was huge, and I had a lot of friends who had like 50,000 followers, 100,000 followers, and I'm like, oh, I've got to be an influencer. And um, I had a call with a guy named Chris Dufay, and he's another Aussie coach who's quite well known. And he said to me, "Look, go and do your time in the gym. Put in a couple of years, earn your stripes, get results, perfect your method, then take it online." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, maybe I should do that." So I did that, and then 2 years later, I actually took it online, and I'm glad he gave me that little nugget of wisdom. So
Yeah,
yeah, long
yeah.
story short, I'm online these days.
Well, good for you. It's interesting. We use the term influencer, and yet, I've been doing what I do for a long time. In fact, I made my very first online sale in 2000. Man, time flies. 23 years ago, and at that time I
Wow.
had started one of probably it. one of the most ugliest websites on the internet. I used to own a cleaning and restoration company, and I started this website called getmoldsolutions.com. There's remnants of it still there to this day. Not a doggone thing is happening at that website. But the fact that I sold a $29.95 mold test kit from somebody that had never met me, just read words that I had put on a website, was fascinating to me. And I was just hooked on this whole thing. And since then I've gone on to sell millions and millions of dollars worth of stuff online. And it's interesting though that we see these people who have large followings and stuff. And for me, what's interesting, because ever since starting this podcast a year and a half ago, we've been having a big impact with this podcast. But for me, I know the reality is I want to have a huge impact. In fact, I facilitate relationships that impact millions of people, but yet the overwhelming majority of those millions of people will have no idea that I was ever even there. But I don't care. I do not care, because I know, and I want to make a big impact, and I don't care if anybody else knows it and stuff. And use that with doing what you do and serving the clients that you serve, because they are entrepreneurs primarily, and those entrepreneurs through their businesses, they impact a lot of people. Whether it's, we can start right with the people in their own household, their spouses, their kids, what have you. Then we can start with their team on their team that works for their company, the clients that their company serves, all of this. And so the work that you do directly impacts a whole lot of other people, and indirectly impacts even more, because that entrepreneur is now better equipped and stuff. And so it's kind of cool when we start looking at that. And so, okay, so now that we've got a little bit of context set, we'll switch gears just a little bit. I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners here. So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And Zac, I'm just really excited to hear your story, your experience around this topic of most valuable relationships.
Yeah, definitely. There is, I would say, so many people. However, the more recent one that I would say has helped propel me in a very meaningful direction to where I am now. I won't say his name yet, but I will reveal it in the story.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So, okay. It was 3 days before COVID quarantine lockdown was set to begin. So this was 2020 in March. And yeah, I remember distinctly, it was like you had to be back in Sydney by Sunday night. Otherwise, you were set to quarantine for, I think it was 7 to 14 days, whatever it was back then. So we were traveling back, thankfully. And at this point in Japan, my girlfriend, Monique, and I were going up a very long escalator in Nagano Station. And we were a little bit tired, not really paying attention, just, keen to get on the bullet train and zip back to the airport and get home. And as we're going up the escalator, out of the corner of my eye, I just, you have a feeling that you kind of recognize someone, but the immediate name or place or connection doesn't come to you. But the face, you're like, this face, I know this face. And so we're going up this escalator, and I've gone past this guy. And then as we both passed and we're getting further and further away, he was going down, I was going up the escalator. It both clicked for us at the same time. We both turned around and we're like, we didn't know each other's names. So we're just pointing, saying, from the gym. Yeah. Oh, hey man. And then the escalators were so long that we couldn't we're yelling to talk, and we're just like, well, I'll see you back in Sydney. And that was it. Most random situation. And It turned out to be a guy who trained at my gym for many years that I was a PT at. This is where I cut my teeth, where I earned my
Okay.
stripes and perfected my method. And this particular fellow was always there in the morning, but we never actually spoke. But we knew, like, okay, I know you go to my gym. You know, I'm the PT guy.
Mhm.
However, so his name was Omar Zenhome,
Okay.
and he's actually got quite an amazing top highly rated podcast in Australia as well. Just kind of coincidence. So from that point, it was interesting because COVID had cracked down, the gyms had closed. So I didn't really see him for quite a while after that until the gyms reopened. And we got reconnected. We started chatting about snowboarding. We created a connection on that because he loves snowboarding, I love snowboarding. And then I think once COVID kind of calmed down a little bit, I received an invitation from him to come to a snowboard trip here in Australia that he had put together with a bunch of business owners.
Okay.
And straight away, I was like, take my money, I'm in. Like, we're doing it. And so we committed to that. And then a year later, COVID struck again, shut down all the ski parks and shut down the gyms. So it got delayed another year. And that was a bit upsetting. So 2 years later, we finally get to go on this snowboard trip, and the community put together was amazing, but also getting to build a relationship with a friendship with Omar. I get to meet a lot of his friends. Really helped propel me in a business sense, from like a networking sense. Like, I wouldn't be talking to you today if I hadn't met Omar, because of all the connections and dots that led from that event. Well, led from seeing him at the train station in Nagano in the most random situation.
Yeah.
And then all the dots connect, and he's introduced me to a lot of amazing people. And those people have, really just changed the way I think, the way I run my business. And even, to the point now we're doing the trip again with Omar this year, and it's going to be amazing. And there's more trips I'm doing with Lloyd because of a result of meeting Omar. Like, we're going surfing in the Maldives, and all this amazing stuff has happened all within like 12, just under 12 months as a result of building a friendship with Omar. So
yeah. So you met Omar in right when COVID was happening in March of 2020, and I mean, you knew of each other, but you didn't know each other. And then you had
it's like that guy in the gym. You always see that same guy in the gym, and you might see him at the supermarket down the road, and you kind of give each other a nod, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But you don't see that. You don't usually see that person on the other side of the globe almost.
That's right. That's right. I mean, and what a I mean, what a cool event to have take place, to have both of you guys take real notice of each other in that environment. And I am, my buddy Sean Stevenson, who he's passed away now, but one of the things he said to me years ago, he made this comment that always has stuck with me. He's like, Kevin, he's like, nothing ever happens to me. Everything happens through me and for me. And he lived that. And as soon as I heard him say that, I'm like, man, I want to make that my own too. And it's not always easy. It's not always, because sometimes when we look at things that are going on around us that are not necessarily the most enjoyable experiences, to be able to look at that and say, okay, you know what? How is this an example of this is happening for me, not to me? And we and it's a really great exercise in how to look at situations and stuff. And what an example that is that you just shared. And so you guys had that chance encounter on the escalator, March of 2020. You had planned the snowboarding trip. And when was that originally planned for that it did not happen? What month and year was that in, Zac?
So it was meant to happen in 2021.
Okay.
And it got postponed to last year, 2022.
2022.
So that was in
okay.
August, I believe,
August of last
So
year.
it hasn't even been a year yet. Yeah.
Okay. And so now you guys are planning another trip in August of this year, correct?
Yeah, he's planned another trip, and
Okay.
there's another group of us going, which is going to be super exciting. So yeah.
Okay. So now I want to ask a question because I love asking this follow-up question. So if you look
Yep.
at this relationship between you and Omar, what is like one example of something that has happened over the course of the last couple of years that where you guys got to have either you or you two together got to make a really big impact where hands down that would have never happened if not for the relationship that you and Omar had together?
Mm, okay, that's a deep question. um, I, yeah, I would say it's like that butterfly effect for me. So I couldn't say together that like we've collaborated on some big impact. Not yet. Maybe we will one day. However, I would say it's the butterfly effect of meeting Omar has led one thing to another, and uh, has resulted in me working with a really, really great bunch of people who happen to be my clients, but they're people. I don't like to say my clients, I don't own them. Uh, I work with these people and we get along really well. They're following my program, they're getting great results. And now it's starting, I can see the ripple effect happening in their lives. So their friends, their business partners, their kids, their wives are asking like, oh, like, what are you doing? How is it working? Can you help me? So I can now see that I've like passed on something, and it's now kind of flourishing in somebody else's life, or through my clients' lives as
Yeah.
well. And not to say that my clients weren't great before I met Omar. I'm just the fact that I've met him has introduced me to some amazing people who have been very helpful to me as well and helped me solve a lot of my own problems, not expecting anything in return, which I'm really grateful for. So I
Yeah.
can't pin it on one thing, but it's like
Well,
shifted a paradigm, if that makes sense.
yeah. And I totally get that, because I look back, you know, I met Joe Polish back in 1996 when at the time I had a cleaning and restoration business, and it was
He
not
was into
going
cleaning
well.
too, right?
What's that?
Joe Polish had a cleaning
Yes, he
business at the
did.
same
Yeah,
time, right? Yeah.
yes, he used to own a cleaning and restoration business, and then he started studying really good. He started studying guys like Gary Halbert and Dan Kennedy, and started to understand marketing and apply that to his business, and and it worked so well that he then started helping other people in the industry, and it just
Yep.
kind of started organically. And by the time I met him, he was probably a couple of years into doing this, and he helped me from 96 to 99. He helped me completely transform my business, and I was so grateful to him for that. And through him, I have met so many other amazing people. Watching him has inspired me to, like, because he's a really great connector, and just watching him just be him and watching him do what he does in his own quirky, very unique way. It's just such an inspiration to me. And through watching him, I kind of discovered my own gifts as well and stuff. And Joe and I, we've had this conversation. I remember one time, we were talking about, I made the comment. I was like, Joe, I said, you know what? I said, life would be way different if you and I had never met. And his comment to me was, he's like, yeah, but he's like, Kevin, he's like, you were hungry, you were looking. If you wouldn't have found me, you would have found somebody no matter what, because you were just looking. And I'm like, yeah, I said, that might be true, but I'll tell you what, I am dang glad and dang grateful that you and I got to meet. And so I can totally get how you're looking at this situation with you and Armor, that so much has unfolded because of that chance run in on an escalator around the country that look at what has transpired since then that would have never happened if that initial event would not have happened, and how many lives have been impacted because of that. And not just the lives that you have been able to impact, but like, I mean, look at a guy like Lloyd who connected us, I mean, there's all kinds of interim stuff here, and that's why I really love digging into this just a little bit, because I have long believed that as entrepreneurs, relationships are the most valuable asset we have. Everything else stems from that. And, the whole goal of this podcast, it's twofold. One, giving entrepreneurs like yourself the opportunity to just really share some of your most valuable relationships and honor those relationships, but also for the listeners to inspire them to place an intentional focus on creating more real, rewarding, meaningful, and profitable relationships in their own lives. And Zac, I want to really thank you for the role that you played in that here today, because we've definitely delivered on that. And for anybody listening to this, it's like, dang, Kev, I really like Zac. I like what he stands for and all that. How can they find out more about what you guys are doing and stuff?
Yeah, sure. So the easiest way to find me is on Facebook, LinkedIn. It's just my name, Zac, Z-A-C, no K or H. I spell it the correct way, Z-A-C. I get so offended when people are like, hey, Zac with a K. I'm like, my profile has a C. Where did you get the K from? Anyway, yeah, just LinkedIn, Facebook. I pretty much put all my stuff up on there, more than I would put on a website. I find it funny that people always ask for a website these days. I'm like, my whole life is on social media. Why do you want a website for? But yeah, it's on there. And I do have a couple of free gifts that I hand out that gives people an insight to what I give my clients and how they can do it too. So yeah, LinkedIn, Facebook, you'll find me on there.
I get a kick out of what you just said, Zac, because I'm like you. I have no website for what I do.
Yeah.
And it's just...
Before.
I just have conversations with people, and like,
Yeah.
what did we do years ago? What did we do, years ago without websites, So,
Yeah. Well, that's the catch, because if you by not having a website, people say to me like, "Oh, Zac, what's your website?" So now they've been forced to speak to me, and now I have to have a conversation by not.
Yeah.
If I had a website, they would just go there, scroll, tap a few buttons, and then exit. Never say a word. Now it's, "Oh, Zac, where's your website? Oh, by the way, I don't have one, but what's your goal?" It starts a conversation. So,
yeah. Good stuff for sure. Well, any last thing you feel compelled to share before we call it a wrap, Zac?
I won't go down any other tangents because we could be here for a while, but I do want to thank Lloyd Thompson for connecting us. I want to thank Omar Zenhome. If you haven't listened to his podcast, I recommend it. It's fantastic. And I could literally rattle off another like 20 names, but anyone who knows Omar and is in that circle, you know who you are. And I just want to say thank you for supporting me, my journey, and being a great friend. And also thank you, Kevin, for hosting me on your platform.
Oh, you bet. Thank you. Really appreciate having you. And thank you for taking the time to share, Zac. Appreciate you too.